This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. So as much as I talk about consequence, I yearn for justice for Donald Trump and his ilk. Big news broke yesterday. Washington Post here. Manhattan District Attorney convenes new grand jury in Trump Organization case to weigh potential charges. Now, this is not the original. This is not a continuation, an extension of the previous grand jury. This is a new empaneled grand jury to look into further criminality. Because a grand jury, I'll start here. For a year and a half, I was on a federal grand jury here in Orange County. We actually did several high-profile cases, one of which was Michael Avenatti. So I was on that grand jury. I'm intimately familiar with the goings-on. This is not a federal grand jury, but the process of the grand jury. And for them to impanel a new grand jury, it could be a number of different reasons. It could be that the term for the other one was over and they didn't want to have to extend them because it's already an imposition on their lives. Probably not that, though. Or it could be it's a completely separate run of evidence that they've gotten and they're going to have to analyze it and go through it and take testimony and vote on indictments separately. I'm going to read from this article. The Manhattan District Attorney has convened a second long-term grand jury to hear evidence about the Trump Organization financial practices and potentially to vote on criminal charges, according to people with knowledge of the matter. An earlier grand jury, convened this spring in Manhattan, returned felony indictments against two Trump companies and Trump's longtime chief financial officer, Alan Weisselberg, charging them with tax evasion. We believe, I'll retract that. People speculate as to whether or not Alan Weisselberg is going to cooperate, fearing prosecution, fearing incarceration. Tax evasion is something the government does not play with. Just ask Wesley Snipes. It is unclear whether the grand jury is still hearing evidence about the Trump Organization. The new grand jury is assigned to meet 3 days a week over 6 months, people familiar with the matter said. Listen, that to me that's bananas. That's a lot of work. 3 days a week for 6 months. I was on a grand jury for a year. We extended for 6 months, and it was once a week. Federal. So we heard all the cases here in the Central District of California in Orange County. 3 days a week, they're getting into some stuff here. It was expected to hear evidence on Thursday, meeting in Manhattan's surrogates court, usually a forum for disputes over the estates of the deceased because the criminal court buildings are jammed with a rush of post-pandemic trials. One person familiar with the matter said that the grand jury was expected to examine how former President Donald Trump's company valued his assets. The people familiar spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe private legal proceedings because grand jury proceedings are secret. Saying that there's a grand jury that exists is not secret, but the goings-on and the proceedings are secret. That appears to be a separate issue from the one described in indictments from the first grand jury, which has dealt with allegations that Weisselberg and other Trump executives evaded taxes on their pay by systematically hiding some of their compensation from the IRS. Both Weisselberg and two companies have pleaded not guilty. The second grand jury's term indicates that it could outlast District Attorney Cyrus R. Vance's term, who leaves office at the end of the year, and extend into the term of his successor, Alvin Bragg. Vance declined to comment. Bragg previously declined to talk about the Trump case while campaigning. And the seating of the new grand jury does not signal that other Trump entities or executives will be charged. The second grand jury could end its term without indicting anyone. I think that's unlikely, but it's possible, I guess. This type of targeting and harassment, this is just chef's kiss from genius, boy wonder, Eric Trump. Listen to this quote. This type of targeting and harassment violates every ethical guideline of a prosecutor. It's wrong. Eric Trump, the president's son, told the Washington Post last year. You know that the more that they protest, the more that they complain and they whine, the more that they do that, the more danger that they're in, the more danger they feel. And that is what's going on here. Listen, a new grand jury, a new DA, all this is good news. All that it means is, well, one, it should put pressure on Merrick Garland to do his job and investigate. Listen, Merrick Garland, everybody else can tune out. This is for you, brother. If you are not going to pursue justice for Donald Trump and the many instances of obstruction of justice, of quid pro quo and self-dealing and financial crimes, then you might as well step down. If you're not going to do your job, move aside so someone can step in and do the job. Because it's not Cyrus Vance's job as the district attorney in New York City. It's not prosecutors' jobs in Georgia necessarily. You're the attorney general of these United States of America, and no one is above the law. Donald Trump or anyone, it doesn't matter how much money you have, you're not above the law. You're not immune from consequence. Especially when you're a serial offender like Donald Trump. Anyway, I'd love to know what you think about this new development. This is big news. 6 months. It's not a long term. We'll have to see what comes out. I'm interested to know. You can call, leave me a brief voicemail, 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me daily at dollemore.com. Thank you for joining me. Follow me on social media. I would absolutely love to connect with you there. And if I bring you value, only if I do, I'm not for everybody. I'm not everybody's flavor. If there's somebody else out there who does bring you value, more value, support that person. I'm sure they would very much appreciate it. But if I wet your whistle, I don't know, then consider supporting my work for $2 a month. You can become a channel member. Click the join button below, see what's involved, or you can go over to patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast, which also you should subscribe to my podcast. It's a good time. Anyway, I love you guys. I appreciate you. I'll see you next time. Until I do, be genuine. Take care of one another.